Craftin' buddies. It's Lori from Lori's Little Bit of Crafting. Late Night Lori is coming to you on Monday, June 23rd. It is 11:16 p.m. for me here in Wisconsin. I just tried to start my live and every once in a while technical difficulties pop up, so I went out and had to come back in. And let me get my other device set up so I can see if anybody joins me live. And if anybody gives me any comments. So, excuse me, last night I made a card using some void pieces, or the pieces that I punched out to leave a void from the card I did the night before. So this is from 2 nights ago. And I used a brayer on an embossed base. Then I cut out some areas to leave the void so I could put these sailboats in here. And this is from the Sunrise Sailing bundle. So there's a stamp set, there's dies, and there's a hybrid embossing folder. So I've used all of these to make various cards. So these were my last two. You can watch my videos on those. And I also did this one a while back where I used the embossing folder on a layer, and then I used the die for the hybrid and I cut it out at the same time. But I, excuse me, I had layered some of the in colors on here. So that's another one of them. And then here's another one I did that I made as an easel card. And what I realized is that I don't think I have made any cards simply using the stamp for the sailboat. So that's what I'm going to work on tonight. And I'm going to use this leftover base that I had from last night where I did what I call a faux layer. So I used a sketch from the last annual catalog here. I think this is the one I was working on. And what I did, where it's got the base and then a layer in here under the two circle images, rather than cut another layer out of cardstock, I thought what I would do is just take a piece of cardstock, create a mask, and just brush around it with my blending brush and ink. And I did that on the inside of the card as well. So I think I'm just going to quickly do that. And we will get that out of the way. And I wanted to be kind of careful so that I don't go over into the other side of my card. Now this is an old color cardstock. I just had it in kind of my stash here. So I am just going to use that to blot my brush so that I don't have any harsh blobs of color like that. All right. And when I brush, I start on my mask area usually and work my way out to the base, or I will start outside of the base and move my way in over the mask. Okay, so let's take a look and see how that looks. See? So that was my faux mask technique, if you will. So let's set that aside because now I've got my card base ready. And what I thought I would do is I had already stamped these on here too, and I can pull out that card again. So you can see I used a sentiment from the Say Something, I think, ephemera pack. But you can see how I had this faux layer, and I had stamped those seagulls on it already, and I had a second one. Just because sometimes when you're going to make one card, you may as well make two. But I thought we would go ahead and put this sailboat image down, resting on my border. Hopefully I can get it lined up all right. So I'm going to use the Secret Sea for that. And this is a cloud cover base. And then the Secret Sea is what I did, the seagulls and the blending brush. And that's what we'll do the sailboat on. So let's do this. And we'll get my piercing mat here. And see if I can line this up so it kind of looks like it's resting on the water. And I usually like to let my stamp just sit there for a few seconds so that the ink can kind of get absorbed by the cardstock. I don't press necessarily very hard because I don't know if it's so much the pressure or if just it's the absorption of the ink. All right, so that looks pretty good. And then this is some texture for the boat. So let's see how that looks. And I'm going to, I think, stamp that off and just see. Yeah, I think I like it stamped off. And we'll just fill in some of our boat so it looks kind of realistic, I guess. That looks pretty good too. And then the other thing is the sails have some color in here. And I'm going to use some red. I think I'm just going to use some real red. I think this needs a little pop of color. So we're going to give this a whirl. And I am just lightly tapping my stamp onto my ink. Frequently what I will do is I will take my ink and stamp it onto the stamp. I'll take the ink onto the stamp rather than the stamp into the ink. It helps a lot if you have a heavy hand to use the ink onto the stamp rather than vice versa. I think that's hopefully pretty well placed. Sometimes that's a challenge when I'm filming. I can't actually get my head all the way over without risking putting my head in there. So that's pretty good. I could have tried to move it over a little bit more, but I think that's fine. All right, and then I thought I would add a few clouds. Now those look really kind of bright to me, bright white. So I thought I would add, I'm trying to get that to just jump out of the die. Sometimes it works for me. I thought I would try to soften those clouds up a little bit. And I thought maybe using my smoky slate would work. Hopefully that won't get them too dark. I could do cloud cover. That would probably work as well. But we'll just play with what we have here and we'll just see how it looks. The other thing I did too was I took a piece of just a scrap and I ran it through the embossing folder. Hello, Tess. Welcome. So what I did was I took my embossing folder and just put that scrap in here so I could capture some of the clouds. And I thought I would try to fussy cut those and see how those looked on there. So we'll put some color on these, but we'll also try to do just some little fussy cutting around here and see what looks better. And then I also took the dies and cut out some water strips. And I'm not sure if we'll use those or not. And I'm not sure if I'm going to like how these clouds look because there's really no definition for the bottom of the cloud in the area that I embossed it on that embossing folder. I mean, it's got straight lines if you're using the embossing folder, but I don't know that I wanted it to be that harsh on my card, but it might be. So we could do, I guess I don't like that. We'll see how this lines up. And then we can take this piece too. I realize that it's your first time, Tess. I did not recognize your name. I am usually on sometime between 11 p.m. at midnight Central Time. I'm not as tied to my clock as maybe I should be. Sometimes I just have to wait for life to happen and give me a few minutes to get in and craft. And sometimes that's just when things have settled down enough that I can kind of get a little bit of creative juices flowing. So welcome. Have you caught any of my other videos on replay, maybe? So that you know kind of how I roll. If you're here and you add comments, a lot of times I will ask for interaction and try to do a card based on consensus rather than just what's in my head. Those look okay, I think. These might look just a little more fake, but let's see what we can get going with putting some gray on them. And hopefully I won't get the gray too dark, but I might actually end up going with those textured ones because I do like texture. And I'm just adding just a very little bit of smoky slate on these clouds so that they're not crazy white. And we'll just see how those look. Where are you from, Tess? And if my responses are delayed, it's because either I'm paying attention to what I'm trying to do, or there's a delay with my iPad and I don't see the comments come through real time. There's just a slight delay. So don't think I'm ignoring you if I don't answer something or comment right away. All right, so I think these are probably acceptable too. They're just not crazy white right now. So let's just take a look at these. We could do something like this and add some texture, or, and I need to burnish that a little bit more so it stays a little bit flatter for me. There, that's better. So we could do this, or we could do some of this and put these up on dimensionals. I actually think with the card, maybe the flat ones are better. So you're in Colorado. Very good. And I'm in Wisconsin. So you might have come in later than what I explained for that one. But I'm in Wisconsin. So you're in Colorado. I know a gal in Colorado. We went to On Stage together. So there, actually, I know a couple of gals. There's a gal on my team that actually had moved here from Colorado and had placed an order with me just randomly because she found me online. And I thought, oh my goodness, she's from Colorado. I don't know if she realized that I'm in Wisconsin. But she was moving here and we've become good friends now. So it's funny how crafting can kind of make you family and friends, you know. So what do you think? Plain clouds or bumped up clouds that might not quite work? If I brush these with gray, I wonder if that would give them a different appearance for me. And I think what I'll do too is maybe try to round these a little bit more too so they look puffier. See if that works. All right, let's do a little bit of gray blending on those pieces and see if that makes a difference. And it's ever so light, so you might not even be able to see the gray that I'm blending on here, but I am using a very light touch. I don't know, maybe you can see how it's just not This is the bright white, and this is where I've added just a little bit of the gray, the smoky slate. And I do think I kind of like that better. It's kind of like when, I don't know, somebody has brand new crazy white false teeth, or they've gotten their teeth cleaned and it just looks unnaturally white. So that might actually be okay that way. What do you think? All right. Tess or anybody else, feel free to chime in with some comments. Then what I thought I would do as well is use the Ahoy sentiment on here. And I could stamp it right on there, but I think I want to make a banner. And I just need to find the Ahoy. Oh, it is right there. Sometimes reading them upside down and backwards, I can't quite figure out which one is which. So we're going to do Ahoy in red. Again, I want to have some more pop of color on here, I think. And what I'll end up doing is making this into a little banner. Okay. And I'm going to try to keep my ink pads closed so I don't get too much ink on myself. And this is an old guillotine style trimmer. It's not old, but it was one of the bonus items that Stampin' Up! Offered to new demonstrators, which it's pretty cool. I love it. You can't get it, unfortunately, but it's pretty cool. So I think I could do something like this and maybe trim it down just a little bit more. And then if I make a flag out of this, whereabouts in Colorado are you from, Tess? I have been to Colorado just a couple of times. And you can see how I'm doing my banner here. I mean, there are punches to do the banners or the flagged end, but what I like to do is find the center point or the approximate center point. I just make a little snip as to like how deep I want my flag to be. And then I go from corner to the edge of that snip. And then on the other side, corner to the edge of that snip. And then I generally have a pretty symmetrical banner. Okay. So this is just one of those pretty simple cards that I'm using basically stamp inks and paper. Although I did use the embossing folder there for just a little bit. Now, these also come with the die set, and it kind of creates a water pattern. And I don't know, I don't think I'm going to use that on this one. I did use it on the easel card that I made. So this I made a while back. So I did make those strips on there. And then I used a void piece to give some more depth to the water. But I think I'll hang on to those maybe for another project. But I thought I would cut them out and get them ready just in case they would look all right. But I think this is probably too close to the bottom that it's just not going to work for me today. So the last thing I need to do then, and this looks a little bit crooked to me. So we're going to try to trim this a little straighter. Let's just see if I line it up on my grid. It's definitely wider that way. So I cut it a little bit crooked with my little guillotine. Sometimes when I do this, I just make it worse. But I don't want to have to start over, so I think that's probably pretty good. That'll be close enough, I think. And then what I'll do is I'm going to glue it here, but I'm going to put this up on a dimensional on the end. And what I like to do is Use my bone folder to break up some of those fibers and give it a little bit of flair. So then what I can do is I can put dimensionals here, and I'll put glue here, and then maybe a little bit of dimensional there to just kind of hold it up. All right, so let's go ahead and find some mini dimensionals. There's a scrap piece. There we go. So I'm going to put dimensionals in here, and I'll put 2 of them there. And I'm going to use these edge pieces and put them on the tail there where I flagged it out. And then we're going to drop a little bit of glue on here. So let's take the backings off right away. And I'm going to put just a little bit of this multi-purpose liquid glue here. And I use just a very thin layer. So if you've got a lot of glue squeezing out and making a mess, a lot of people aren't fans of the liquid glue. But if you're having a mess, it's probably because you're using too much glue. A little bit goes a long way. So when my granddaughter crafts with me, one of the sayings she has is ... not a lot. And that seems to work. All right, so those clouds with dimensionals behind there, or the ones with the texture. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm not sure. I still think I'm going to go this way. So I'm going to glue the big one on, and then I will use dimensionals on that smaller one. And again, I'm spreading the glue out, but I'm not using a very thick layer. We'll just put this one up here. And then we'll put some dimensionals here. I'll use this one up. I like to use all of my edges, because even though they're not cut in the little hexagon shape, they're very handy to use for odd edges. All right, so we'll do this like over here. And then whatever I stamp inside, ahoy, I'll probably put a happy birthday. I have a lot of people asking for birthday cards, or I have birthdays coming up. And the only other thing I'd want to do then is get some kind of embellishment on here. I think that would be fun. So let's just kind of take a look and see what we've got. I have some of the neutral matte dots. I think these are still available. And we've got them in white. I could make them a different color. I could make them red, but I think we'll see how it looks with the white. I thought I had another pack of them because I like the little ones. But I'm going through my stash here. And I'm coming up without any more of those. So that's my last, looks like my last one. All right, so we're going to use just this little one and maybe a couple of these bigger ones. So we can just push that off and then maybe put, it'll probably be better over here, I guess. Hope that doesn't look too silly. Maybe we'll put this one up here and peel this one carefully off and put it here. What do you think? Stamp, ink, and paper, and a little bit of die cutting. All right, so pretty quick, pretty easy. And then I just need to find a birthday sentiment, and that card's going to be done. So these pieces will save for another project. These cloud or the water pieces will save. And call it a day. So, Tess, thanks for popping in. Anybody else that was hanging around with me, thanks for stopping in. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to my page if you're interested in what I craft. And that helps grow my channel. I really appreciate it. I'll post a picture of this on my Facebook page, which is Lori's Little Bit of Crafting also. If this inspires you to create something, go ahead and leave a comment and bring a picture of what you've created. I love to see what other people are making as well. Until next time, happy crafting.